So, firstly, let me start then. It's good to be back. Last year, we were here at Wind Energy Asia, at that time under our operating entity, Energy. Now we've moved back to our parent company, RWE. So today's presentation will be about floating wind. It's myself, Head of Business Development for Taiwan, and also Chris Willow, who is Head of Head of Floating Offshore Development for our global group. In this presentation, we're going to go over three areas. Firstly, a quick introduction to RWE for those of you who don't know us. Secondly, lessons learned from the demonstrator projects. Thirdly, floating wind opportunities for Taiwan. So firstly, in terms of RWE. RWE is one of the world's oldest and largest electricity utility companies. We've been investing in electricity networks, grids, and generations for over 120 years, investing in the latest innovations. So firstly starting with coal, gas, nuclear, and renewables. And now our global portfolio is 43 gigawatts of generating capacity. The future, as promised by our CEO, is to be carbon neutral by 2040. In order to do this, we are investing in renewables worldwide, and the board has put aside $6 billion for net investments in renewables alone by the end of next year, and this investment will continue. In terms of what we do, we are also looking at next generation technology. So this includes storage, hydrogen, and also floating, which is the topic of today. So a quarter of our renewables portfolio is offshore wind. In offshore wind, we currently have 17 projects in operation, totaling 5 gigawatts of installed capacity, of which we own 2.5 gigawatts pro rata. We currently have 2 projects under construction, that's another 1.3 gigawatts, and then a further 15 projects under development, so adding a further 13 gigawatts to the portfolio. This makes us globally number 2 for offshore wind. Our business model is an end-to-end one. We want to build, own, and operate all of our assets, and we need to do this to become carbon neutral. One important reason why we also do this is because it allows us to apply our in-house engineering expertise and hard-learned lessons from our portfolio to each of our new wind farm projects, and that allows us to maximize the outputs of electricity, because that's what offshore wind is about. It's about clean, green, affordable, and reliable electricity. In terms of the group worldwide, we have 20,000 employees across 20 countries in 4 continents. We entered Taiwan 3 years ago under Energy, and we are partnered with Asia Cement Corporation to develop the Yu-Foong offshore wind project off the coast of Hsinchu City. So, on to floating. That's the focus of this presentation. So before I hand over to Chris, I want to give a quick overview of why floating is the future for Taiwan. For those of you who attended the speeches this morning, BOE Director Chong mentioned there's a feasible limit on the amount of seabed fixed capacity. That's predicted to be around 10 gigawatts, and we can see in the Zhenghua area it's already fairly full, especially once you include the shipping channels. Now, just over a year ago, there's a pledge from President Tsai for a further 10 gigawatts of offshore wind by 2035, bringing a 2035 target to 15.5 gigawatts. So, where is this extra capacity going to come from? Floating is going to be the solution, using, as Mr. Wong said, existing technologies from the oil and gas sector. It has been de-risked, it has been proved. We just now need to make it affordable and mass produce it for offshore wind. In terms of why floating is suitable for Taiwan, when it comes to electricity policy and generation, you typically want to put electricity supply as close to demand centers as possible. In Taiwan, there's significant demand in the north. And as you can see from the famous map, which has been shown 100 plus times, the strong wind resource, the best wind resource is also in the north, but it's limited because of that 50-meter limit. So there's only limited capacity which could be delivered by fixed bottom. By using floating, it opens up that resource in the north. So this is why floating is the solution for Taiwan's energy needs. So next, I'd like to hand over to Chris for some specifics.
Thank you, Yu-Foong, and greetings everyone from the UK. Yu-Foong, can you just confirm again that you can hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
Great. So thank you very much, everyone. It's great to be speaking to you at this important conference and in this extremely important market. As Yu-Foong said, my name is Chris Willow, and I'm the head of floating wind development at RWE. Floating wind is an important priority future market for us. And so I'd like to explain a bit about how we're approaching this market going forward, and with some specific updates and news for us about what we plan to do in Taiwan. Importantly, floating wind for a company like RWE is an evolution of seabed fixed rather than a revolution and an entirely new technology. With our 20 years of experience of delivering seabed fixed offshore in a number of markets, we've already learned most of the important lessons for deploying these projects. And with our really strong in-house engineering team, we're in a really good place to close out the remaining knowledge gaps that are there. So we're really working hard on those at the moment. But even for a company like ourselves, it's important to recognize that we don't simply jump straight to commercial scale projects. And as such, we have our 3-stage stepping stone plan to reach commercial scale projects, cost competitive floating wind. So I'm going to talk through the update on our demonstration projects and give you some insight into what we're doing and where. Importantly, even for a company like us, we can't jump from demonstrator projects up to large-scale projects. So we believe that the next important stage will be to work on one or more stepping stone projects with a capacity of 100 to 400 megawatts. These projects, 400 megawatts of floating wind is still a very big project, but in terms of the scale, we think it's manageable. And this will give us the opportunity to implement the lessons that we're learning in our demonstration projects, and also starting to test the benefits and challenges of economies of scale, new production techniques, installation techniques, and operations. And obviously, our long-term goal, as I'm sure most of us in the room is going to be, is to reach those large-scale projects where we're delivering hundreds of megawatts sustainably and cost competitively. And we think that Taiwan and the APAC region, more generally, has a huge amount of potential in this area. Yu-Foong, could you go on to the next slide, please?
Okay.
So, talking first here, we are very proud of our demonstrator portfolio, and we believe it's unique in the market at the moment. It's important, we believe, to be highlighting to the market that there isn't going to be a single winner in this market in terms of the concepts that are used. The choice of hull or the floater unit is going to be determined by a huge number of factors, as well as the met-ocean conditions of the site. There's going to be local supply chain capabilities, local content requirements, and consentability issues. So as such, we are taking a concept neutral approach to going to our development and trying to understand all of the different factors that are going to affect floating wind development. And so we have developed this portfolio of floating wind project or demonstrators in different markets to understand about those different variations. I'm not going to go into the details of these projects, but obviously I'm very happy to talk with people if we want to get in touch to understand more. But importantly, we're going to see these projects deployed, the TetraSpar this summer, DemoSaf next summer, and the main Aquaventus delivered in 2023. And so we're going to have this portfolio of projects delivering really important lessons, and we're already learning a lot. And looking at what this variety of projects offers us is insights into many different of the key factors that are going to be affecting floating wind. So we have concrete and steel designs, we have different types, barge, semi-sub, and a suspended counterweight. We're delivering in different markets, with different moorings, and with different partners. And all of this is going to give us a huge amount of insight into how to deliver floating wind. And my job is to make sure that we take all of those learnings from the these demonstration projects and apply them as quickly as possible into our next stage projects. Yu-Foong, could we go to the next slide,
Yep.
please? So I am not going. We know from our experience of deploying seabed fixed that there are a huge number of challenges to get to the next stage of even the stepping stone projects. And so to be able to deliver on a commercial scale of 30 to 60 units a year, this is going to take an awful lot of work, and importantly, you can't learn all of those lessons from a demonstration project. We know that, and we're not focusing all of our learning activities on the demonstration project. We're thinking about a huge amount of other stuff as well. And so I'm happy to announce at this conference that RWE over the next 6 months is going to be undertaking a supply chain investigation in Taiwan that's also going to be repeated in our other markets as well, to really understand about the supply chain capabilities in Taiwan to deliver on floating wind. We're going to to do this, we're going to rely on a lot of the expertise of our existing floating wind partners, so from our demonstration projects, and also all of our procurement and technical and commercial insights that we've gained from delivering seabed fixed so far. We have really detailed connections with many of the supply chain already, and so we're going to be leveraging these to learn more, but we obviously want to hear from others as well. And so we would like people to get in touch with us to let us know that you'd be interested in working with us on this. Thinking about what we're going to be thinking about, we're going to be thinking about the production techniques that are going to allow us to do serial production. Obviously, a demonstrator is a one-off, but we want to be able to sustainably and reliably produce one or more a week of these very large structures. And so this is going to be, we need to be thinking hard about this. We need to think about what port and manufacturing infrastructure is required. There's going to be a lot of parallels with seabed fixed offshore wind, but we need to be looking and making sure that that's relevant. And we need to be thinking about what capability is there in the markets in terms of the supply chain. And we want to be working with those suppliers to think about how we sustainably ramp up our production. We know that suppliers aren't going to be able to just flick a switch and be able to produce these overnight. So we need to think about a sustainable route to getting them ready to deploy on a commercial scale. It's a really exciting time to be in floating wind, and I look forward to hopefully working with many of you in the future. Yu-Foong, if I could hand back to you to talk about the APAC market.
Okay, so the next stage, what is the future? I mentioned earlier, there's potential, to hit the 2035 targets, floating will need to be part of that equation for Taiwan. We know there are 4.5 gigawatts of EIA approved seabed fixed projects, so there's potentially up to 5.5 gigawatts in Taiwan. But then, let's look beyond Taiwan. What's the size of the market in the APAC region? Independent forecast from the Carbon Trust put that at 32 gigawatts by 2040. So actually there's a massive chance and opportunity here for the Taiwan supply chain, not just in Taiwan, but further abroad as well. And this is something which, as Chris mentioned, we will be engaging the supply chain here and also academic institutions, research institutions, because this is the future. We want to be part of that journey. And at RWE, if you have any questions, please get in touch. We are currently hiring, and we will be also putting up job specs in the space for floating offshore wind. Thank you very much.